Greetings, gentle observer, and welcome. I am Robert Farmer, and within this video I shall debunk the man-made climate change hoax yet again, but this time using the villain of the piece itself, carbon dioxide. And in order to do this, we shall look at just how much CO2 there is in the atmosphere and what part, if any, it has in influencing the climate. And most importantly, I shall also show why the climate hoax was started in the first place. I would mention that any figures I give here have come from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. For although this quango is not science-based, but is politically motivated, as its very name tells us, the climate alarmists would appear to put a great deal of faith in their edicts, and so all I can do is to use their figures. These figures are invariably given in parts per million. And this being so, and in order to keep things as simple as possible, I shall say that the whole of the Earth's atmosphere is represented by 1 million pounds. Something I hope we can all envisage. And to help you in this, I have produced a number of less than professional, I will confess, pictorial representations. 1 million pounds in £50 notes would result in a column of notes 260 centimetres tall. Of our 1 million pounds worth of atmosphere, we can say that nitrogen accounts for 780,000 pounds, which we shall now remove. Oxygen accounts for 210,000 pounds, which once more we shall now remove. This leaves us with just 1% of the atmosphere, or 10,000 pounds in our monetary comparison. Of this 10,000 pounds, 9,500 represents water vapour, which we shall now remove. Of the £500 remaining, £80 represents a number of trace gases, too small to concern ourselves with right now, and so these trace gases we shall now remove. This leaves us with £420, representing the total amount of CO2 found within the atmosphere. However, and of the utmost significance, not all of this CO2 has been put there by man's activities, as is often stated, or at least implied, by the climate alarmists. Instead, the IPCC tell us that only some 3% of atmospheric CO2 is there due to man's activities. This being so, we shall now remove £408, representing naturally occurring CO2. Leaving us with just £12, representing the total amount of CO2 present within the atmosphere due to man's activities. However, as the UK emits just 4% of worldwide CO2 emissions, we can now remove 96%, or £11.52, from this £12, which we shall now do. This now leaves us with just 48 pence, representing the total amount of CO2 the UK puts into the atmosphere in our monetary comparison, which, expressed as a fraction, is 48 over 100 million. A very small amount indeed by anyone's metric, or so you might think. The UK government, however, tell us that even this minuscule amount is far too high, and we must cut our CO2 emissions by a staggering 80 Whilst an 80% reduction figure may sound bold and hugely significant, we must remind ourselves that this is a cut of just 38 parts out of a total of 100 million, and so is of little, if any, significance whatsoever. Out of our £1 million worth of atmosphere we began with, this leaves us with just 10 pence, representing the amount of CO2 the UK will emit should the government's target be achieved. Once again, expressed as a fraction, that's 10 over 100 million. This target figure is, however, little more than sheer madness. For in order for us to achieve this, we must effectively give up completely private motoring, as electric vehicles will never replace oil-powered cars, as there is simply not enough resources left on planet Earth to replace the 1.3 billion cars currently found upon the world's roads, the lack of electrical generating capacity notwithstanding. We must also sacrifice central heating whilst eating less meat and dairy products, as well as curtailing foreign travel. Or, in other words, we must sacrifice and change our very society. And all because of a minuscule amount of CO2 the UK puts into the atmosphere. Madness, I'll say again, sheer madness. However, and clearly, this madness makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and so there simply has to be another reason for these society destroying measures. And indeed, there is such a reason, that being resource depletion. The world is simply running out of everything, from rare earth elements to sand and gravel, from tin, lead and copper, to coal, natural gas, uranium, and in particular, oil. And this being so, we now stand on the very brink of an unprecedented energy crisis. And knowing this, governments around the world conceived and implemented the biggest mass delusion in the history of the world, that being the global warming hoax. And they did this for two reasons, with the first being the desire to keep the coming energy crisis out of the public consciousness, as knowledge of the coming crisis of itself has the potential to disrupt society. There may well be a run on the banks, for example, or people may wish to cash in their pensions or stop paying into a pension fund at all, and so on. And the second reason for the climate hoax is the vain hope that some individual or company might come up with a new source of energy and so save us all. Thus far, however, no one has, and nor will they, for the only contenders thus far are wind turbines and solar panels, both of which need huge amounts of materials and fossil fuel energy to manufacture and to build. Moreover, and even when up and running, both have an insurmountable Achilles heel, that being that neither offer an uninterrupted and reliable flow of energy. For the wind does not always blow, and even the climate alarmists must concede that the sun does not shine at night. And the only solution to this lies with batteries. But, and once again, we simply cannot produce enough batteries because of resource depletion to make wind or solar viable. Telsa, for example, recently built a battery factory in Nevada in the USA. But in order to supply the electricity needs of the USA for one single day, the factory would have to produce batteries for the next 500 years. Moreover, when the world started to use plastic in quantity following the end of the Second World War, we did not anticipate the problems posed today by plastic waste, which is now a worldwide environmental catastrophe. Likewise, when wind turbines, solar panel and batteries come to the end of their lives in just a few short years' time, we will face yet another environmental waste emergency, especially from batteries. For we have all seen and used perhaps the battery waste bins to be found in many supermarkets, for batteries pose a real environmental problem. Now imagine a car battery weighing in at 500 kilos and the problem of disposing of this battery in the not too distant future. By not looking at future waste management, we are making the same mistake with so-called alternatives as we made with plastic, but this time on a greater and truly catastrophic scale. Moreover, to produce all of these so-called green alternatives requires a huge amount of minerals and so a huge increase in mining, with many of these mines existing in third world countries where there are no workers' rights, and indeed much of the work is carried out by child labour. This being so, when you take delivery of your shiny new green EV, please spare a thought for the children around the world carrying bags of rocks. For it is these children who made your green car possible. To be clear, gentle observer, the world as we know it, the industrial society in which we now live, will very shortly be no more. For we are on the brink of a transition that will completely and radically alter society beyond all recognition. From a society wherein we have everything, to a society wherein we will have nothing at all save that which we can produce for ourselves. And as all the easy to get at metal ores have long since gone, we shall be forced to use the only resource left available to us, that being stone. This being so, we are now heading for what many scientists are calling the post-industrial Stone Age. I am Robert Farmer, and I thank you for watching my humble video, and I do so hope you will subscribe and press the notification